New to photography? This should be your first lens. Or at least one just like it anyway.
Yeah!
Alright guys, now I hope you're all good. Now in this video I want to explain why I believe the 50mm f1.8, also known as the Nifty 50, is the best lens you can buy as a beginner in photography and will only help fast track your skills in becoming a better photographer. Now starting out in photography can be very daunting, not only just deciding on what camera body to buy, but also what lens to go with it. What is a fast lens? What is a variable aperture? Do these even really matter, or can I just get away with buying a cheap budget zoom? Because let's face it, camera gear isn't cheap, and when you're just starting out, you don't want to be spending thousands and thousands of pounds on gear that you're not even sure how to use, whether or not it will even suit your style, or whether or not you'll even enjoy photography. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I believe the 50mm f1.8, also known as the Nifty 50, should be your first lens when you are just starting out in photography. So, reason number 1 is price. These are usually dirt cheap. Now, they're a bit plasticky, but the image quality, honestly, is fantastic. And they're available on every single mount. So every single system has one of these Nifty 50s or one of these 50mm f1.8 lenses that you can buy. So it doesn't matter if you're shooting Lumix, Sony, Canon, really doesn't matter. They're available on all systems. So it can usually work out cheaper to buy a slightly more expensive body and get the Nifty 50 than it would do to get the body below and then get the series of kit lenses that usually come with these cameras. So for example, if you were looking at getting something like an R10, you could actually potentially get an R7, get the Nifty 50, and it'd probably work out the same price as an R10 and all the kit lenses. Or even better, get the R8, which is a full frame camera, if you were looking at getting the R7, because full frame is always better than a crop sensor, in my opinion anyway. Or just save the money and get the R10 with the Nifty 50, because these variable zooms are not really worth the money, and I wouldn't advise that you get those, especially as your first lens. So that is reason number 1, is price. Because the lens is so cheap, it could allow you to upgrade your body before you've even started. If that's a thing. Reason number 2 is focal length. The 50mm focal length is actually a great focal length to use when starting out in photography, as it's referred to as the normal focal length, because it best matches that of the human eye and the perspective and field of view that you actually see the world anyway, if that makes sense. So you'll essentially get what you actually see in real life. However, having a zoom lens might seem like it's going to be more versatile because you've got more focal lengths to choose from. However, I honestly think it will actually hinder your progress into becoming a better photographer, and that's because you'll just get lazy and you'll just cheat. So you'll basically just stand on one spot and then you'll just be like, oh, I want to get that building in. Oh, I'll just zoom out a little bit. Whereas if you've got the 50mm and that's it, you're pretty much restricted to the 50mm focal length. You can't go anywhere really. So it forces you to then think outside the box, and you'll move back, you'll move forward, you'll figure out how to get the composition that you want in the frame. And also it matches like the way that you see the world anyway. So even when you don't have your camera on you, you'll be thinking of different sort of shots that you can get, and you'll see a shot before you've even got your camera out. Whereas when you've got like a zoom lens, you don't really know what a wide angle is going to include in that frame until you've turned your camera on, basically, which in theory should fast track your ability to creating better compositions, which will make you a much better photographer overall. And trust me when I say this, but sometimes having a zoom lens gives you too many options, whereas if you just got a 50mm focal length, that's it, decisions made. You no longer have to worry about what focal length you're going to shoot at, whether or not this should be a 24, a 35, a 50, a 105. The decision's made, you're stuck at 50. So that allows you to concentrate on honing your skills and becoming better as a photographer, like learning the exposure triangle. How does the aperture affect my photo? How do I do long exposures? What on earth is metering? Why is my photo blurry? All these things you have to learn and develop and progress at. Takes time to get better at. So by having just the 50mm focal length, that's one thing eliminated from your thought process, and you can just concentrate on becoming a better photographer. So yeah, that is reason number 2, and that's focal length. Reason number 3 is aperture. Now, I can guarantee well, maybe guarantee is a strong word, but I bet that the majority of you out there have decided to get into photography because you've seen these amazing photographs that these amazing photographers have created. You know the ones I'm talking about, the ones where the subject is perfectly sharp and everything in the background just melts away. And you think by buying yourself a nice fancy camera, moving away from the iPhone, you think that you're going to be able to create similar images yourself, which, yeah, you probably could. However, a lot of it is to do with lens choice. Now I can hear so many photographers in the background there saying, gear doesn't make the photographer makes the shot, blah, blah, blah. Well, you tell me why you spend so much money on gear. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Lens choice is arguably more important than choosing the right camera itself, because trust me when I say this, but buying like a variable aperture zoom lens, something that goes from like f3.5 to say f7.1, can be so confusing and extremely irritating, especially when you're just starting out. Now I fell into this trap myself, and my first camera was actually the Canon 500D, which was a crop sensor camera, which at the time I had no idea what that meant. But anyway, I went into a shop and I asked them, I said, right, what camera combo would you recommend as a complete beginner? And they did actually offer the 500D along with the kit lenses, which was like the 18 to 55 and the 55 to 200 or whatever it is. But then they also suggested I get this 18 to 200 Tamron variable aperture zoom instead. So I did. And honestly, it irritated the crap out of me. I did not enjoy using that camera or that lens. I was constantly getting blurry shots. At night it was terrible. I had no idea why the image quality was never that good. And to be honest, it had nothing to do with me. It was the lens. The variable aperture just made it almost impossible for me to expose my image, because as I was zooming in, I didn't understand why the image was getting darker, and as I was taking shots that were zoomed in, they were also blurrier. Because I had no idea that when I was at 200 mils and f7.1, that not only did I have to crank up my ISO to get the exposure better, but also I had to change my shutter speed. So I was getting all these blurry dark images and I had no idea why. Because at the time I didn't know that the rule of thumb when it came to focal length and shutter speed was that you kind of had to match your focal length and shutter speed. So if you were shooting at 50mm, you'd have to have a shutter speed of a minimum of 1/50. So at 200mm, I needed a shutter speed of 1/200, but I didn't know this, so I'd be taking a photo at 18mm. This is the other reason why having variable focal lengths can hinder your progress. But yeah, I was taking a photograph at 18mm, for example, right, and my shutter speed might be 1/50 or something like that, right? But then I'd also be like, I know, I'll zoom in and I'll take another shot at a similar perspective, but just a different focal length. I had no idea that I should have then changed my shutter speed to 1/200 or whatever the focal length was. So my image was always blurry and it just kind of put me off and everything wasn't sharp and anyway, I did not enjoy it. So yeah, if you choose a 50mm, you won't have that issue because you can't zoom in or out. So it allows you to learn the basics of photography first, grow with your kit before you then decide to move on to your next lens and you upgrade to different lenses, because obviously you've learned everything and you start to progress. But when you're beginning, it's just very confusing. And also because you've got f1.8, which is so wide, it will mean that you will get that kind of nice creamy background separation, and it will probably allow you to fall in love with photography a lot quicker than a variable aperture lens will, because you won't be getting that kind of background separation that you would do with something like an f3.5 to 7.1. Whereas if you've got f1.8 to begin with, you will get these nice creamy blurry backgrounds and you will honestly love it. Like the images I got when I first got this lens were incredible, and I was like, oh wow, this is how it's meant to look. Okay, I get it now. Whereas before with the variable aperture, it just used to confuse me and I was always annoyed that I would never get the results I was wanting. Plus, low light. f1.8 in low light is incredible, so you'll be able to experiment a little bit more with nighttime photography, which you wouldn't have been able to do, or you won't be able to do with a variable aperture zoom, because everything will just be grainy and it won't be that good. So yeah. Reason number 3 is aperture. Reason number 4, image quality. Believe it or not, these little Nifty 50s offer excellent image quality even at such a budget cost. And what you'll find is in the photography community from other photographers is that prime lenses offer far superior image quality over zoom lenses. And this is very true. But when you're starting out, you don't necessarily know this, so you would just think that by buying yourself a mirrorless camera, doesn't matter what lens you stick on there, you're going to get some excellent photos from it. So for example, this new fancy Sony A9 III or whatever it's called with this global shutter, right? If I bought that with the kit 18 to 55 variable aperture, whatever it is, and I also had the A7C with a 24mm f1.4 G master, I would honestly, without a doubt, get better results with that A7C and the G master over the global shutter £7,000 camera with that silly little kit lens. So if you've got budget in mind and you're getting carried away chasing the specs, listening to us silly YouTubers telling you what you should buy, I would honestly highly recommend staying away from the kit lenses and getting something like a Nifty 50 to start you off with. And as I said before, I used to have the 500D and I got it with one of these variable aperture zooms, one of these kit lenses, and I did not enjoy it. I was not getting the results I wanted, so I sold it. So I was getting frustrated. So instead, I managed to upgrade the camera and get a Canon 7D, which is far superior compared to the 500D. It's much more rugged body, it's weather sealed, it had faster burst rates. It was just a better camera overall, but I got it with the Nifty 50, so I didn't have any kind of zoom. I just had the 7D and the Nifty 50, and I had it for the same price. Sold the 500D with the Tamron and got the 7D and the 50 for the same price. When I got this combo, I was blown away by the image quality. Honestly, everything was so crisp and so sharp. The background separation was so blurry and so sweet. Honestly, it was amazing. And it had nothing to do with the camera. I could have kept the 500D and just put the Nifty 50 on there and I would have got the same results. So it is the lens. Like, the lens makes all the difference. So yeah, reason number 4 is image quality, because prime lenses, they just kick ass. Reason number 5, it's an investment. Well, it is if you stick with photography, of course. I mean, you could find that you buy all this expensive gear and then hate it, but let's just say that you actually enjoy photography and you stick with it. What you'll find is by buying this Nifty 50 is you won't actually need to replace it for a long time. You might not even ever replace it. Instead, any lens that you decide to buy next will be in addition to this lens. You will probably not need to replace it at all. Trust me, like, a budget zoom lens at the time when you're just starting out probably seems like the right choice. Like, you're probably thinking, I'm new, I'll just buy the cheapest option. It will do for now. However, give it a few months, once you've got the hang of everything, you'll start to learn your own style and you'll understand what you need and what you like and how you shoot. And as a result, you're gonna then know what lens you need next to develop your skills further and to follow perhaps the niche that you decided to go down. So say if you've gone down wildlife, or if you're doing street photography, or if you're doing architecture, or if you're doing interiors, or if you're doing modeling, or if you're doing fashion, you will then sort of know what lenses will best suit your needs and your style. And that's exactly what I did. Once I bought the Canon 7D and the 50mm, I then went on and bought the Canon 24-105 L series lens, which offered far superior image quality to the budget zoom lenses. It was rugged, it was well built, it was weather sealed, it was a professional grade zoom lens. So this is why I truly think if you're starting out in photography, as in if you're a complete beginner, avoid all these variable aperture kit lenses that come with these cameras, because I do believe that they will hinder your progress in becoming better at photography. And it may even put you off photography entirely. I mean, you probably won't get the results that you've been looking for. You won't get the results that you've seen on Instagram and everywhere else. You'll be like wanting to get all these beautiful images. I've spent all this money on this expensive kit. I can now take these professional images. And because you've bought one of these silly kit lenses, you'll find that you just keep getting blurry shots and you won't understand why. So you probably won't even like photography, and then you'll just quit and you'll blame yourself, which isn't the case. So are there any limitations? Like, are there any issues if you bought this as your first lens? Well, obviously there are some. Like, it's not a perfect lens. There is no such thing as a perfect lens. And if you keep going in photography, you will only discover further that you need to keep buying more and more lenses. But yeah, there is definitely one downside, and that is the choice of focal length. Like, I know I said that focal length was a positive earlier on, but yeah, just having 50mm focal length will eventually become an issue for you. But hopefully you will have developed your skills buy now, and you will know what kind of lens you need to buy next, and then that lens will become your secondary lens, like I said. But yeah, not having other alternatives to choose from when it comes to focal length will become a problem at some point. So for example, if you wanted to do a family portrait inside your living room and you can't step back any further because there's a brick wall behind you, you may find that you need to step in the back garden and shoot through the window to get everybody in shot, which isn't ideal. So yeah, there are times when you will probably need different focal lengths, but hopefully by that time you will have saved up a little bit more money and you can probably buy a better lens than the silly variable aperture kit lens that comes with these combos. Other than that, that's probably it, just focal length. That's probably the only downside really I can think of. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, you may notice that I've only spoken about photography. I've not spoken about videography. That's an entirely different ballgame, and this 50mm Nifty 50 is probably not going to be the lens for you if you're going to go down the video route. That's an entirely different video, and if you want me to do a video about what kind of lens I think you should buy as a video-centric lens, then I'm happy to do so, and if you want me to do that, please leave a comment below. But yeah, this is definitely just for photography. So yeah, this is just my opinion. However, it is my opinion from experience, and I do believe that if you are starting out in photography, the Nifty 50 is the way to go. Other people may not agree. Everybody's got their own journey in photography and everybody's needs are different. So it's each to their own. All I'd advise is that you just keep watching and researching other photographers and other YouTubers, because honestly, us YouTubers, we can ramble on about all this expensive gear and then you guys will all get gas and be like, oh, I need to buy this L series lens at $3,000 so I can get these amazing results. That is not the case. You can buy budget lenses and get awesome results as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you know the score. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like this, and hit the bell if you want to be notified of new videos. Leave a comment, I'd love to hear from you. All those lovely things that will put a smile on my face, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard.